Merry Christmas, everyone, and welcome so much to Firstpost America. I'm Eric Ham, and we're live in the nation's capital of Washington, D.C. We're so glad to have you with us today, and we're going to be taking you from the U.S. and around the world, covering all the top stories of the day. But before that, here's a look at the latest global headlines. Aspiring Prime Minister and political heavyweight Tariq Rahman returns to Bangladesh after 17 years in self-imposed exile as a huge crowd of supporters gathered in the capital to welcome him with banners and patriotic songs. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un visits a nuclear submarine factory and receives a message from Russian President Vladimir Putin hailing the two countries' invincible friendship. Israel reacts furiously to condemnation from 14 countries, including France and Britain, over its approval of new settlements in the West Bank, dismissing the criticism as discriminatory against Jews. Saudi Arabia, the main backer of Yemen's internationally recognized government, says that Yemeni separatists should return territory seized recently, adding that it seeks to de-escalate tensions within the government camp. And Turkish authorities arrest about 115 alleged Islamic State members suspected of planning attacks during the end-of-year holidays, Istanbul's chief prosecutor says. Christmas is always seen as a time of goodwill, warm wishes, and a pause from the everyday battles, including those political. But on Christmas Eve, President Donald Trump ensured that the holiday calm did not last long. While the president joined festive traditions and sent greetings to Americans and U.S. troops overseas, he also used the occasion to launch a sharp attack on his political rivals, namely Democrats. From his Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida, President Trump spent part of Christmas Eve participating in NORAD's annual Santa Tracker cause, speaking to children across the country and tracking Santa Claus' journey around the world. He and First Lady Melania chatted with young callers about their Christmas wish list, reassured them about Santa's progress, and even joked about making sure Santa was good and not a bad Santa infiltrating the country.
Well, we track Santa all over the world. We want to make sure that Santa is being good. Santa's a very good person. We want to make sure that he's not infiltrated, that we're not infiltrating into our country a bad Santa. So we found out that Santa is good. Santa loves you.
Now, the festive mood, however, did not extend to the president's political opponents. In a Christmas message posted on his Truth Social platform, the president took aim directly at Democrats, branding them radical left scum, and accused them of trying to destroy the country. He used the post to praise what he described as major achievements under his administration and claimed the U.S. no longer faced open borders, weak law enforcement, men competing in women's sports, or what he called transgender for everyone. Now, in contrast, Donald Trump also said the country now enjoyed a record stock market, strong 401k returns, the lowest crime levels in decades, no inflation, and robust economic growth. The comments came a day after the fresh Commerce Department data showed the U.S. economy grew at an annual rate of 4.3% in the third quarter, the strongest GDP growth in 2 years. President Trump also highlighted the figure, saying it beat expectations by 2 percentage points and pointed to tariffs as a key driver of growth and national strength. However, in the meantime, political tensions have already been high in the days leading up to Christmas, with Democrats criticizing the Justice Department over what they described as a slow and heavy documents leak of redacted thousands of documents from the investigation into convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, who, of course, we know has been associated with the president. The issue added another layer of controversy to an already charged holiday season.
First of all, the law requires all unclassified documents related to Epstein to be released. It's obvious they have not met that standard. Blanchard himself admitted that they only are releasing a few 100,000 documents, and the rest of the documents they will be releasing in the weeks ahead. It is disappointing that they haven't been able to release these documents on time in compliance with the law.
Now, alongside the political rhetoric, President Trump also sent Christmas greetings to American troops stationed around the world, including personnel involved in major U.S. naval buildups in the Caribbean Sea. Washington has been increasing pressure on Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, and the troop deployment underscores the administration's focus on regional security during the holidays.
On behalf of the First Lady and our entire country, let me thank each and every one of you for your extraordinary devotion and service to America. I know it's not easy when duty separates you from your loved ones, but you have earned the gratitude of all Americans for keeping our country safe, strong, and free.
The president ended his Christmas message by declaring that the U.S. is respected again and enjoys the strongest national security in its history. And as the Christmas lights fade and the political year draws to a close, one question continues to linger. With 2026 on the horizon, will the president double down on his combative style, or is the new political strategy waiting just beyond the holiday season? I think we know the answer to that one. A new Pentagon report says China is in the midst of a historic military buildup that's made the U.S. homeland increasingly vulnerable. The congressionally mandated assessment describes a Chinese military that is expanding rapidly across nuclear, space, cyber, and conventional domains, even as Washington pursues a more optimistic diplomatic tone with Beijing. The report argues that China's People's Liberation Army has become more sophisticated and resilient, with capabilities that can directly threaten America's security.
China's historic military buildup has made the U.S. homeland increasingly vulnerable. China maintains a large and growing arsenal of nuclear, maritime, conventional long-range strike, cyber, and space capabilities able to directly threaten American security.
And one of the most closely watched areas is China's nuclear arsenal. Now, according to the Pentagon, China's stockpile remained in the low 600s through 2024, reflecting a slower pace of warhead production compared to earlier years. The report doesn't spell out, however, the reasons, but links the slowdown to President Xi Jinping's sweeping anti-corruption purge within the PLA, including the rocket force that oversees nuclear weapons. Now, these investigations, it says, may be causing short-term disruptions and uncertainty over readiness.
Xi's anti-corruption campaign, including the firing of 2 PLA rocket force commanders, deputy commanders, chief of staff members, state-owned defense industry seniors, and a top PLA rocket force engineer, all of which have involvement in nuclear weapons, is very likely creating reverberations within China's nuclear forces and may be raising questions among leadership about force readiness.
Despite this, the long-term trend, however, remains clear. China is still carrying out a massive nuclear expansion and is on track to have more than 1,000 nuclear warheads by 2030. The report also reveals that China has likely loaded over 100 intercontinental ballistic missiles into new silo fields in northern China, strengthening its ability to launch retaliatory strikes after early warning. But beyond its nuclear forces, Taiwan remains at the center of the Pentagon's concerns. The report says that the PLA is moving toward Xi's goal of being able to achieve a strategic, decisive victory over Taiwan as early as 2027. And at the same time, China's naval ambitions are equally striking. Beijing aims to operate 9 aircraft carriers by 2035, just behind the U.S. Navy's fleet of 11. Its newest carrier features advanced electromagnetic launch systems similar to those used by the United States. And amid these accusations, Beijing has firmly rejected the Pentagon report's conclusions. China's foreign ministry has accused the Pentagon of distorting its defense policy and exaggerating threats to justify U.S. military expansion. Now, China's foreign ministry spokesperson says that it keeps nuclear forces at the minimum level required for national security and doesn't seek an arms race.
I'm not aware of this so-called internal reports of the United States that you were referring to. The U.S. action in hyping this up publicly is a recurring tactic aimed at justifying its efforts with excuses to modernize its nuclear capabilities and undermine global strategic stability. The international community should have a clear understanding on this.
And as Washington seeks a more balanced approach, the Pentagon's warning stands. And while many are continuing to watch China's buildup continue, the moment of reckoning may be closer than it appears. And now to some palace intrigue. Inside Donald Trump's MAGA base, cracks are beginning to show and a brewing civil war is occurring. Far-right activist Nick Fuentes has once again sparked outrage, launching a racist attack, this time at gubernatorial candidate and former presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy. The controversy erupted after Ramaswamy's speech at AmFest, where he challenged conservatives to rethink what it means to be American. Speaking to a largely MAGA-aligned audience, Ramaswamy argued that American identity should be rooted in shared values and ideals, not race, ancestry, or bloodline. He also directly called out racism and anti-Semitism within the movement.
If you believe in normalizing hatred toward any ethnic group, toward whites, toward blacks, toward Hispanics, toward Jews, toward Indians, you have no place in the future of the conservative movement, period.
Now, Fuentes responded swiftly and viciously. He mocked Ramaswamy's background, dismissed him as an anchor baby, and claimed that the Republican had no right to equal American identity, let alone ambitions like running for governor of Ohio.
We're not asking anymore. We're telling you. And if you think now that you're going to become the governor of Ohio, telling white people that you're as American as them, you got your anchor baby, birthright citizenship from your H-1B parents. You think you're going to go around Ohio telling people that have been there since the Revolutionary War, you're as American as them, you're now going to be their governor?
In a post laced with slurs and profanity, Fuentes told Ramaswamy to go back to India. He even went further, questioning Ramaswamy's marriage to an Indian woman, the names of his children, and even his religion, arguing that these disqualified him from belonging in America.
This is not your home, and you know it's not your home. That's why you married an Indian and you had Indian kids. You didn't even adopt the religion of our country. You should go back to India, where there's a lot more people like you. There's 1.5 billion Indians in India, and you don't have to worry about being called a Jeet there, because there's 1.5 billion Jeets in India.
The message was unmistakable. To Fuentes, citizenship is inherited, not earned. And this was not an isolated incident. In fact, just weeks earlier, Fuentes targeted Second Lady Usha Vance using a racial slur against her, a term commonly directed at people of Indian origin. Now, Vivek Ramaswamy publicly defended her, condemning the ideology behind the attacks. And soon after, her husband, Vice President J.D. Vance, stepped in himself, delivering a sharp rebuke of Fuentes and drawing a clear line between political disagreement and outright hate.
Anyone who attacks my wife, whether their name is Jen Psaki or Nick Fuentes, can eat shit. That's my official policy as Vice President of the United States.
Fuentes, however, didn't back down. Instead, he escalated, resurfacing online to mock J.D. Vance, sneering that he never expected the vice president to be warm enough to invite him to a traditional Indian family dinner. Usha Vance, the wife of the vice president, is the first Indian American and Hindu Second Lady of the United States. Born in California to Indian immigrant parents, her growing public presence has made her a repeat target of online abuse. A 2024 analysis by the group All In Together revealed the scale of the harassment. Between January and August of last year, researchers identified around 1,800 unique posts and nearly 16,000 interactions across major platforms containing gender and race-based attacks solely on Usha Vance. The post garnered more than 200 million views. So what we're witnessing is not just a personal feud, but a recurring collision between an inclusive vision of American identity and a hardline exclusionary worldview that refuses to evolve. And as these figures continue to circle back to each other, one thing is clear: this battle is not going away anytime soon. Because in today's America, the fight over who belongs may be just as fierce as the fight over who leads. For many in California, the holiday season has arrived under emergency alerts instead of festive lights. A powerful storm driven by an atmospheric river is pounding the state, turning celebrations into cautions and travel plans into evacuations. From Los Angeles to San Diego, relentless rain and fierce winds have triggered flooding across various counties, placing millions at risk. What should have been a time of celebration has now turned into a race for safety. With months worth of rain falling in just days, emergency declarations are spreading and power is out in many areas. As Californians continue to watch the water rise in hope, the next morning brings calm.
Dark clouds swallowed the sky, rain drenched the streets, and mud poured down hillsides, swallowing fences, walls, and entire driveways.
You okay?
Headlights flickered as cars crawled through knee-deep water. The father and daughter, visibly panicked, waded through floodwaters to rescue themselves.
Is this your dad?
This is not a movie. This is California, and this is how the storm arrived. On Wednesday, a powerful atmospheric river known as the Pineapple Express locked onto the state, unleashing heavy rains and life-threatening flooding. Forecasters warn this could be Southern California's wettest Christmas in years. But the reality has been far more brutal. The storm is expected to deliver months' worth of rainfall over the next few days. Meteorologists say this is a once in a 5 to 10 year weather event. They say a trough of low pressure that stretches across the Pacific Ocean is pushing wet air right up against the coastal mountains in Southern California. The wet air is hitting the state at the perfect perpendicular angle for maximum rainfall. The result? Entire streets have vanished. Hillsides are collapsing and neighborhoods are being told to evacuate. In Los Angeles County alone, officials went door to door, knocking on nearly 380 vulnerable homes, urging families to evacuate before debris flows turned fatal. Areas already scarred by January's wildfires now face a new enemy: unstable soil, primed to slide with every drop of rain. Governor Gavin Newsom has declared a state of emergency across vast stretches of California: Los Angeles, Orange, Riverside, San Bernardino, San Diego, and beyond. More than 7 million people now sit in the highest risk flood zones.
We weren't expecting to spend Christmas stuck at the house with limited utilities. But the flip side of that is I can be thankful to spend time with my family. I've got 3 kids here with me, 3 dogs, and my wife, who is pretty excited to have me all to herself and the family for all of Christmas without having the opportunity to run off anywhere.
In the San Gabriel Mountains, mud and debris surge down roads leading into Wrightwood, a quiet mountain town now under evacuation warnings. Time as the rain keeps falling. Relentless rains have disrupted travel plans for many during the holiday season. In Los Angeles, police have responded to dozens of traffic accidents as drivers navigate flooded intersections. Along the coast, places like Malibu are bracing for rising waters. Further north, the Bay Area is hammered by powerful gusts packing winds of up to 108 miles per hour. Across the state, some 80,000 homes and businesses had no electricity heading into Christmas Eve. The mayhem is not ending anytime soon. By week's end, parts of Southern California could see 4 to 7 inches of rain in coastal areas and up to 14 inches in the mountains. For Los Angeles, that's not just unusual, it's shocking. To put those totals into perspective, a city like Los Angeles could see anywhere from 2 months' worth of rain to nearly half a year's worth in just a week. Forecasters warn the danger isn't over yet. For now, California waits, watching the water rise, the hills tremble as the sky refuses to clear.
And finally, not everything is doom and gloom today. It is Christmas. This Christmas, the world did not celebrate in one voice. In fact, it sang in many. In some places, the sound was choirs and carols. In others, it was silence, survival, and prayer. From the Vatican to Gaza, from Notre Dame to flood-hit villages in Indonesia, Christmas 2025 became a story of faith, resilience, and hope.
As Christmas 2025 dawned, the world pressed pause. Not just to celebrate, but to breathe, reflect, and hold on to hope. From candlelit cathedrals to glittering city skylines, the spirit of the season travelled far beyond borders. At the Vatican, anticipation filled St. Peter's Square as Pope Leo led his first ever Christmas Eve Mass since his election earlier this year. Thousands of faithful gathered beneath the winter sky as the new leader delivered a message of peace, compassion, and renewal. In Paris, Notre Dame once again stood radiant, both scarred and resurrected. Worshippers packed the iconic cathedral for just its second Christmas Mass since reopening after a devastating fire nearly erased it from the skyline. Across continents, Christmas unfolded in colour and community. In India, Prime Minister Narendra Modi joined worshippers at a local church participating in prayers, carols and hymns. His message of love, peace and compassion echoed the universal language of the season. In the United States, New York's Empire State Building lit up in festive red and green, while President Donald Trump hosted a Christmas Eve dinner at Mar-a-Lago. Far from the glittering skylines, Indonesians gathered for Christmas Mass in flood-ravaged villages of North Sumatra. Surrounded by debris and fallen logs, survivors came together to pray.
Back then, Christmas was felt like it is only a tradition. Now, we're so grateful about the Christmas because God still gives us the breath of life.
In Bethlehem, the heart of the Christmas story, midnight mass returned to the Church of the Nativity for the first time since the Gaza-Israel conflict began. Thousands filled Manger Square, cheering as singers performed under the night sky.
I was here last year and the atmosphere was full of sadness, but today it's full of happiness. I bring from my city Nazareth to Bethlehem and all the world, all the wishes of a holy holiday, the birth date of the holy Jesus, who will bring real peace.
In Gaza itself, though, Christmas was marked quietly. Members of the Christian community gathered at the Holy Family Church, a refuge that has sheltered hundreds of displaced people during the devastating war.
Our joy is also diminished. Why? Because we've been deprived of celebrating the holiday this year. This is the third year we've been deprived of celebrating in the house where we honor Christ.
Across Ukraine, displaced families marked Christmas far from home, At shelters in Zaporizhia, volunteers served a traditional Christmas dish. President Volodymyr Zelensky used his Christmas address to repeat a simple wish, that of peace. In Iraq, Christian community members gathered at the Sayyidit al-Najat Cathedral and across the Nineveh plains, praying for stability after decades of conflict.
And while we're all away...
And finally, from above it all, astronauts aboard the International Space Station sent Christmas wishes back to Earth.
Got a little tree, and we've also hung...
Stockings hung by the airlock, a tiny tree floating in zero gravity, a reminder that even beyond borders, beyond gravity, the festive spirit still finds its way home.
We're looking forward to spending the holidays together. And not just together up here aboard the space station, but all of our friends at the mission control centers across the planet, in Houston and Huntsville and Munich and Moscow and Tsukuba, Japan.
Christmas 2025 was not perfect. It was not peaceful everywhere. But it was present. In prayer, in rubble, in song, and in silence.
That's going to do it for us today. Thanks everyone so much for tuning in. We hope to see you right back here again tomorrow. Thanks for watching.